This segment is sponsored by Anderson Vreeland. So thank you for their generosity. So the speaker that we have first up is Steph and Amanda from Hemlock.
Yep, and they will be presenting CSR, operational sustainability, and sustainable business models.
All right, thank you so much. And I just want to check that the screen is being shared.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, thank you, GCM Colloquium, for having us. We're really happy to share a little bit about what sustainability is like at Hemlock and how we build it into our strategy and operations. And we'll go through some quick introductions. So my name is Amanda, and I am the Sustainability Specialist at Hemlock. For the past 2 years, I've been here responsible for managing all of our sustainability projects, from big picture strategic programs to initiatives centered around greening our operations.
And I am Stephanie Beveridge. I use she, her pronouns. And I was born in BC and then spent 4 years in Toronto. And I graduated from GCM in 2015. I knew that I wanted to move back to the West Coast, and I interviewed with Hemlock during job fair. And I was hired right away for a sales assistant role, and then transitioned kind of within 9 to 12 months into an account manager role where I work with my own clients and on my new own projects, and that's going on 6 years with Hemlock now. And Hemlock actually employs 8 Ryerson grads, including our president, Richard Cowenhoven, and he actually went to GCM with Chris Smith. So we're gonna start with this video. It'll sort of give you some context of the size and scope of our facility. I'm going to touch on some sustainability aspects along the way, and then I'm going to pass it on to Amanda, who's really going to get into the nitty-gritty details of our initiatives. So Hemlock was founded in 1968 by Dick Cowenhoven, who is considered a pioneer in instilling sustainability into the printing industry and the broader business community. He was an active leader in the business until he passed away in April of 2017. Our production facility is located in Burnaby, BC, on the traditional and unceded lands of the Hunkamin and Squamish peoples, and it's about 30 minutes from downtown Vancouver. It's a 79,000 square foot facility with over 200 staff, and the production teams work over 3 shifts, a day shift, an afternoon shift, and the weekends. Hemlock is widely known for both quality and sustainability, winning many Bennies from the Printing Industries of America, Canadian Print Awards, and being named Canada's most environmentally progressive printer multiple times from Print Action magazine. Besides the Vancouver area, Hemlock has sales offices in Seattle, San Francisco, and spends time in the New York market as well. You would have just seen our client lounges, and that's for when we do have clients outside, not so much COVID time, but visiting from out of town. Sometimes they could spend a few hours or multiple days viewing their projects on press. So we always like to have those lounges equipped with snacks and coffee. So we're heading into the press room, and you're really going to see that working at Hemlock is a lot like GCM on steroids. I really felt like everything I learned in GCM was just elevated when I started at Hemlock. We have 3 40-inch offset presses and 3 20-inch offset presses, all made by Heidelberg. This press that you're seeing now was installed in 2012, and it's a 6-color UV press, meaning that the ink is cured by UV light as the paper passes through the press, which virtually eliminates the release of VOCs. This press prints 6 colors on one side and also has a coating unit, which allows us to do interesting textures and finishes. Then the paper could be flipped over and then fed through the press again to print on the other side. Because the ink is dry immediately, it allows it to go straight into the bindery for trimming, folding, and die cutting. The next press that you're seeing is an 8-color conventional press, and it perfects. It'll print on both sides of the sheet in one pass, but the ink has to dry with absorption and oxidization, so it can't go into bindery as quickly as a UV press. And then you're about to see our newest press that was installed in 2018, an 8-color UV LED press. While only being 6 years newer than the 6-color UV press, the technology has improved a lot. And as like silly and unsexy as printing technology might be, the changes do make a really big difference to our operations. The LED UV lights use a smaller portion of the UV light spectrum to cure the inks, therefore uses less power. It also allows for faster plate changes, a wider color gamut, better quality, and it reduces the make-ready time by 50%, and less time equals less waste. Hemlock is the only printer in Canada and one of only 3 in North America with Heidelberg's Equipment CO2 Neutral certificate. When we purchased our 8-color UV LED press, the carbon emissions, one of 3 in North America with Heidelberg's Equipment CO2 Neutral certificate. When we purchased our 8-color UV LED press, the carbon emissions from the manufacturing in Germany were calculated, plus the transportation of the press from Germany to the west coast of BC. These were all taken into consideration, and the carbon credits were purchased to offset the emissions. By participating in this, we offset 362 tons of CO2. And you would have just seen a big roll of paper at the end of the press, and you're thinking, wait, it's a sheet-fed press, which is true. But both 8-color presses are equipped with a cut star at the feeder end of the press. This allows us to take paper on rolls, and then as it feeds into the press, it gets sheeted to the perfect size right before it enters the press. Paper purchased on rolls saves money for us and our clients, and it allows us to optimize the sheet and have less paper waste. Sustainability has been a focus at Hemlock really before sustainability was cool. Hemlock was the first FSC certified printer in the Pacific Northwest in 2004 and was the first printer in Canada to become carbon neutral in 2007. Between now and then, we've retrofitted the press room with LED lighting and reduced our electricity consumption by 35%. The dampening system used in the presses reuses water for up to 4 months and has reduced the wastewater by 65%. And while Hemlock's totally proud of its status as a leader in sustainability, we truly believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. The planet and its people are better off when all printers pay attention to the environmental impacts of their business and strive towards reducing their carbon footprint. Our focus on sustainability does work as at a competitive advantage. We work with many outdoor brands like Columbia, The North Face, 10 Tree, and more. We find that people that say spend time outside tend to really care about the environment. Therefore, companies who supply products to those people want to align their values with their suppliers who feel the same. Other customers who champion our environmental programs include BC Hydro, Lush Cosmetics, the University of British Columbia, and many, many more. And this last section you're seeing in the video shows our in-house Perfect Binder, installed in 2018. Typically, a printer would do the printing and then send the binding to a trade bindery. But we were finding that we had increased demand for Perfect Bound work, and the local equipment lacked capabilities and required a lot more time and make ready. The Perfect Binder allows us to do flush flaps on the cover of books, lay flat books, and have a minimum spine thickness of 1 millimeter or 16 pages of uncoated paper, which is super thin. It reduces the need to truck signatures and finished books between ourselves and a third-party bindery so that we can finish projects quicker. And while the tour probably looks quite industrial, the end products that we produce are stunning pieces, from magazines and marketing materials to stationery and packaging. And now I'm going to pass it to Amanda, and she's going to get into more of the nitty-gritty of our current and future sustainability initiatives.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. So now we're going to go on to our main topic of discussion, how sustainability works at Hemlock and is integrated into our operations and overall strategy. So sustainability has always been emphasized throughout our 50-year-long history in business, as it was a value of our founder, Dick Houwenhoven, to which he prided the company with. Over the more recent years, we have been raising the bar for sustainability to an even higher standard within our organization and wider community. To focus on our biggest impact in the supply chain, which is paper, we developed a social purpose to define our intentions in the business decisions we make so that we can be an engine for good in society. The social purpose that we created in 2019 is to create connections, build community, and inspire actions that safeguard the health of the world's forests. To build our sustainability strategy further, we also look to the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, which is a universal call to action to protect the planet and improve the lives and prospects of everyone, everywhere. In defining our social purpose, we were asked to align our business with at least one SDG out of 17 SDGs, to which we have identified 5 goals for Hemlock Sustainability Platform. They are as follows: climate action, life on land, responsible consumption and production, affordable and clean energy, and partnership for the goals. The first SDG is climate action, and we enact this by having our operations be carbon neutral since 2007. How we become carbon neutral is that we measure our carbon footprint with Climate Smart, a social enterprise based in Vancouver, British Columbia, that enables us to figure out how to measure our carbon footprint and also reduce it as well. So our carbon footprint is composed of the electricity that runs our presses, the waste thrown out by our employees, and the gas that heats our facilities, things like that. We then do reduction initiatives throughout the year to reduce our footprint as much as possible. And then we reduce our footprint to carbon neutral, zero, by contributing funds to a carbon consulting company called Offsetters, who contributes these funds to great conservation projects like the Great Bear Rainforest. The second way we take climate action really seriously at Hemlock is to grow our zero carbon neutral printing program, created from the ground up by Hemlock. This program offers our clients the opportunity to protect forests by making their print orders carbon neutral. In return, they benefit from being able to place a zero logo that you see here on their order, which certifies their order as carbon neutral. When clients proceed with a print order with us, we show them a quote of how much it costs to make it carbon neutral. We calculate the emissions throughout the entirety of the print life cycle, from forest to mill to Hemlock, including transportation emissions and paper emissions, such as wood use, solid waste, and water usage along the way. The quote that you see on the right-hand side, for example, could cost $300 to make their print order carbon neutral for, let's say, a bunch of books that they're printing. And those contributions then go to a carbon consulting team called Offsetters, who dedicates the funds to forest conservation projects. Ultimately, we want to keep growing our zero program so that we can provide more offsets to the environment. We strive for 50% of our orders to be carbon neutral so we can grow our contributions to forest conservation projects. The 4 notable forest conservation projects that lead to permanent reduction of greenhouse gases are Fognak, Alaska, Great Bear Rainforest, Quadra Island, and Lower Zambezi Red in Zambia. And here are some images here. Over the years, our clients have made a sizable positive impact on the environment. From 2009 to now, zero participants have offset over 15 million kilograms of carbon emissions, removing 3,200 plus cars off the road for 1 year. So as you can see, if you work together, you can make a very sizable impact on the environment. And so, with Hemlock purchasing offsets for our operational carbon footprint and our clients investing in the zero carbon neutral program, all of these funds go to offsetters and to the respective forest conservation projects. The next SDG we strongly connect with is Life on Land, which has us dedicate ourselves to the sustainable management of forests, efforts to halt biodiversity loss and reverse land degradation. We look inwardly and assess materials across our organization to ensure we are purchasing forest-friendly paper materials. For this reason, we signed on to Canopy Planet's Pack for Good initiative, which is a commitment made by Hemlock to not use packaging containing any ancient and endangered forest fibers in them. In the next few months, actually, we are transitioning our shipping cartons, which contain print orders we send to our clients, into FSC certified boxes, which stands for Forest Stewardship Council, that are made from a minimum of 75% recycled content, really upping the sustainability of our cartons that you see on the left-hand side. Now, as for FSC, What does it mean to be FSC certified? This means that Hemlock uses paper which helps preserve high conservation value forests, protects the wildlife that inhabits these forests, such as woodland caribou, all while maintaining workers' rights and implementing policies which recognize the rights of Indigenous peoples to protect their culture, livelihood, and land. We're really proud to say that over 80% of the paper our clients purchase for their print orders are Forest Stewardship Council certified paper, so that the paper they purchase on is of high environmental standard. In addition to being FSC certified and enabling our clients to put the FSC logo on their print orders, we also have an environmental benefit statement, which calculates the environmental benefits of using a stock that contains post-consumer waste content, also known as PCW content, and then comparing it to a stock that has no post-consumer waste in it at all. This gives an intuitive visual to our clients of the environmental savings they can make if they choose a more sustainable paper. And you'll also see how it looks like in real time on a client's magazine, both the zero logo and the environmental benefits statement. We'll now move on to the next SDG, which is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns up and down our supply chain. We do this by finding innovative new papers to input into our production process, such as tree-free papers, which have agricultural fibers in them rather than tree fiber. Stephanie will now go through these options.
We're starting to see paper mills using more alternative fibers. Neenah has infused its folding board with hemp fibers, and Mohawk has new sheets with up to 30% straw, 30% hemp, and 100% recycled cotton in its new line called Mohawk Renewal. Both Neenah and Mohawk are trusted suppliers who produce premium paper and meet our quality and environmental expectations. There are other alternative fibers out there, like stone paper or sugar sheets, but Hemlock has not fully embraced these alternatives just yet. While they may have benefits of not being made from tree fibers, we haven't found that there's enough information available about the material origins, the manufacturing process, and the recyclability of those substrates. We prefer to closely align with FSC, the gold standard chain of custody certification, which allows us to be confident that the paper we're using has come from a responsibly managed forest or recycling stream, and that the workers are fairly compensated and the local communities and Indigenous peoples are being consulted in the forestry practice. One paper I find my clients asking me about quite often is seed paper. It looks super raw and organic, and it can give the impression that a printed piece is super sustainable. I don't want to say it's a myth, but they're sort of embellishing on the idea. Seed paper really doesn't feed through the presses very well. It can only handle light ink coverage, and it's quite expensive. We actually tested it, printing both on the offset press and the digital press, and then planted the seeds, hoping for a garden full of wildflowers. And sadly, neither grew very well. The digitally printed one grew a bit better, presumably because the seeds weren't crushed as badly as they would have been from the offset press. But overall, it was a fail, and I feel like seed paper is a little bit more of a sustainability gimmick than it truly is beneficial.
Yeah, so we'll now switch back to a more operational point of view. We work with a lot of subcontractors and suppliers to make sure we embrace the circular economy. We work with Executive Mats, who picks up our used towel rigs we use to clean up the ink and solvent residue from our presses and cleans them for us. They are able to recover these solvents and return it to the parts wash and print industry for reuse, hence a closed loop system or circular economy. They then return our towels back to us to use again, and thus the cycles continues until these rigs are worn down enough that they cannot be used anymore, and then they are used one more time as heating in Executive Mat's facility. So a really good example of working with suppliers and subcontractors to make sure your operations are more environmentally friendly. Furthermore, we look to reduce our waste by embedding a culture of zero waste into the heart of the organization. We have formed something called the Think Tank, which is essentially a sustainability committee made out of cross-departmental employees coming from all different departments and dedicated to reducing waste and being advocates throughout the organization of the 5 Rs. The 5 R's of zero waste at Hemlock is rethink, refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle / re-earth. And from there, we do things like dumpster dives. This is in 2019, where we measure the amount of waste that is accumulated in our dumpster. And from that measurement, we then come out with a bunch of different initiatives, such as optimizing our recycling through standardized signage and recycling stations throughout our production facility, our lunch rooms, and office areas. We also think it's really important to have employee engagement when going zero waste. So we actually provide fun engagement initiatives like our Choose to Reuse and Recycle pledge to inspire our employees and hope to motivate them to integrate more sustainable practices like reducing, reusing, and recycling in their everyday lives. And then in return, also bring it to their roles so that they're actively thinking of zero waste as they go throughout their workday. The second to last SDG is affordable clean energy for Hemlock to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy. We are a long-time renewable natural gas leader of Fortis BC, having our facility run on 10% renewable natural gas. We're also the only printer in Canada to be Green East certified. Basically, we certify our renewable energy, and those funds go to wind turbine projects like the wind farm in Oklahoma. And we also work with the government in a program called Building Benchmark BC to share our energy consumption with the government so that they can make informed decisions about policies, initiatives, and incentives to help bring the business community forward and the whole community to conserve electricity and energy more. And lastly, and quite possibly the most important, is that we strive to actively be part of a global partnership for sustainability. Sustainable development requires a diversity of key players, such as our leadership team, our employees, the government, customers, partners, and suppliers. We all want to work together in order to make sure that our sustainability goals are aligned and that we're really pushing the bar higher for sustainability and for the environment moving forward. At the end of the day, we want to make a sustainable impact company-wide, local, and internationally. So thank you very much for listening in on our presentation. We really do appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and you can also follow our different social media handles as well. Thank you very much.
And I see that we do have a couple questions in the Q&A, which we could try to answer. The first one being, does Hemlock have any clients that evaluate their packaging based on greenhouse gas emissions? If so, what do they ask you for? And which areas do you recommend other printers focus on that best meets their sustainability goals? And I believe what you're asking is similar to what Amanda showed in the environmental benefit statement. We take, because the, such and such amount of CO2 isn't necessarily relevant. So we convert that number into the amount of trees, the amount of water, it could be the amount of cars taken off the road, to give it a little bit more context so that people can truly understand. Because as much as we are super steeped in sustainability, we understand that the day-to-day person wants it a little bit more relevant. And the other question that's here is, what proportion of your orders are currently carbon neutral? And Amanda, you're probably best to answer that.
Yeah, so really in the past 2 years, we've been ramping it up. So I would say it's in 2019, it was around 10% of our orders, but we look to drastically increase it to 50%. A way that we do this is we actually offer a line of carbon neutral papers that are automatically carbon neutral and built in from the get-go. So if you choose like 3 of the papers that we have, they're actually already carbon neutral. There doesn't have to be a quoting process into it. And this just helps clients choose carbon neutral papers as a default, which is why we think our goal of 50% of our jobs being carbon neutral in the next year or so is definitely achievable. So that's where we're at right now.
And I see someone in the chat asked about the link to the tour video. And yes, we would have the link. I'm not sure if the team would be distributing information afterwards, but that's something that we can provide to the Colloquium team to view the video.
I was just gonna ask if it was accessible anywhere. So yeah, we can work on that definitely.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your segment. You guys were amazing. As you can see, there's a lot of interaction. We'll get to any other questions after in the panel. Thank you so much.
No problem.